What is up, true believers? It's Mason here with Comics and Crosses, where we discuss the eternal truths behind our modern mythology. And today I thought I'd hit you with a video about our beloved friend Spider-Man, as I was recently digging into Ultimate Spider-Man, which I had never read, but with the announcement of Ultimate Fallout or Ultimate Invasion, something like that, coming up from Jonathan Hendricks, re-exploring the Ultimate Universe, I thought it'd be fun to kind of catch up on some of the Ultimate Universe history, starting with our pal Spider-Man. Now, if you don't know, this was a retelling of Spider-Man's origins and his whole, history of stories, and was a new kind of fresh take at the time. I don't know, what was this, 90s, early 2000s? And so, but in reading it and kind of seeing Peter Parker from his origins as a very nerdy kid, like this, with the whole 90s part in the middle, kind of cut thing going on. It got me thinking about Peter Parker again, and actually another character who he shares similarities to from the Bible. So, David, who you might know from the story of David and Goliath, is another one of these characters who has a lot of these qualities of that underdog, that small character going up against a giant, or giants, literally and figuratively. So I thought I'd take this opportunity to talk a bit about the similarities with Spider-Man and King David. So yes, King David, once David the Shepherd, but eventually would become king, is often thought of, even though he has many exploits in the Bible, is thought about a lot, for his exchange or his defeating, his conquering of Goliath. And now, why this was significant was not only because Goliath was a giant, but a mighty, larger-than-life adversary, but because David himself was kind of the most unlikely character, the most unlikely hero. He was small, not a warrior, not trained in battle. He was, in fact, left behind to tend to sheep, kind of do things around the farm, not really seen as one who was an adventurer or a warrior or somebody to be feared or called in the event that, a great adversary were to show itself. So, similarly, Spidey, old Spider-Man, is often as a character viewed as small, as slight. He's never really seen as a big buff character. He's never like jacked or yoked. He's always kind of small and slippery. He gets into these tight spaces, and his costume is very tight. I guess all superheroes' costumes are tight, but Spider-Man's is maybe just a little tighter. So, Spidey is, he's a small character who carries a great deal of strength. And so, I thought that, yes, there's similarities. Yes, they're kind of an overlooked small characters who are not seen as mighty warriors, who have something that a certain edge to them. I mean, King David was thought of as a man after God's own heart. He sort of was a guy who just had some gumption, had some. He had just a swagger to him. He had a pure heart, is what it was, and I think that's the way we look at Peter Parker too. Although, as years have gone on, Peter Parker in the comics has become, he's had his ups and downs and had some hard times, and at times becomes maybe a little more jaded these days. But still, Peter Parker himself, we think of as that pure hero who is outmatched, oversized, going up against the likes of Rhino and Venom and all these other characters. And I mean, he's just always seen as small. Even I think when during the Amazing Spider-Man movies, when Andrew Garfield was Spider-Man, it kind of felt like, yeah, he's perfect, because we think of Spidey as like a scrawny kind of character almost. He can be cut, but he can't be jacked. That's kind of like a thing that comes with Spider-Man. And so, yeah, so he has this quality, and I think this is important though, because I think in our human nature, we all want to root for the little guy. We all want to see the little guy usurp or take over or defeat that giant adversary. And truthfully, a lot of us feel like we are overwhelmed by the obstacles in our lives, right? So Spider-Man, King David, these stories, and seeing how somebody who's pure of heart and has kind of the desire, the fight in him, like the bigger fight in the dog than the dog itself, is something that I think resonates with the human soul. And ultimately, because I would say, this is Comics and Crosses, and I would say because of the great adversaries that Jesus faced in, and Easter has just passed recently, but in dying on the cross and coming back to life and facing sin itself and delivering mankind. So I think all of these stories ultimately point to Jesus. I think that these kind of like timeless battles of good versus evil, point to the redemption of humanity ultimately. And I think Spider-Man and King David share kind of a connection in that, and there's something to looking at a hero and not thinking like, yeah, that's our guy who's going to get it done, but thinking, wow, wouldn't it be great if there was something special enough about this unassuming young man that he could save us, that he could have the power and strength to do good, and as we know, with great power comes great responsibility. So I thank you guys for tuning in. Until next time, this was a quick little thought from Mason here at Comics and Crosses.